Hello and welcome to Mice and Logistics for Events. This is the event shutdown session. Then, Mr. Taffin, why should I know this?
Well, you know something, Mr. Costa. The event shutdown is one of the most forgotten parts in event logistics.
So, here are the objectives. So, considering the timeline, now we are in the last part of the event shutdown.
So let's see what the event shutdown is all about. When we consider this common saying, no job is finished until the paperwork is done, reflects a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
Information is the lifeblood of an event operation and organization, and it must be captured and stored properly. Managing information must be a constant and consistent activity that is governed by sound administrative procedures. Information is power and powerful, and it must be collected and controlled appropriately.
Just like with many other parts of the event timeline, it will depend completely on the complexity of the event. For a small event, you just turn the lights off, but for a large event, we have much more to do.
Then, Mr. Taffin, what exactly do we have to do in a large event?
Well, let's see. To make it easier, we will divide it into 3 parts: physical close down, administrative duties, and evaluation and recording.
Starting with the physical shutdown, it covers these 3 main areas.
Crowd dispersal is the first part of the physical shutdown. Look at this picture of people leaving Robbie Williams' concert. You can only start other parts of the shutdown once all have left. Maybe some tasks, such as packing, can be started while the crowd's attention is elsewhere.
But how do we make all these people leave?
Well, to make them leave safely and in an organized fashion, we must think of the number of exits, transportation, and of course safety.
How about some staggered entertainment? Wouldn't that make them leave in a trickle fashion?
Yes, of course, that would be a great idea.
Once people left, you consider the equipment shutdown. For this, a load-out schedule is very important, as lots of equipment must be taken down by specialist staff.
What kind of information is important on this loadout schedule?
For example, the correct exits and loading docks, their timings, etc. We must also consider cleaning and repairing of equipment.
Of course, you would not want to find a spilled food from a previous event in one of your boxes, or even a broken microphone when it is most needed for the next show.
Organized packing is also important to consider, such as correctly numbering and listing for everything to be found easily at your next event. Selling or auctioning any equipment could be also a profitable option, especially when considering customs and transportation costs. Small equipments needed to be signed off.
And of course, all of this is very different if you have another event that is the same or a completely new event. And most importantly, don't forget to keep the toilets until the last moment, as we will need to be using them still.
On-site and staging area is basically putting everything back to its original form.
Yes, so this of course includes cleaning, but also an environmental assessment. If you have grass, it has to come back to how it was. You're also going to have a lost and found. The lost and found stays open for some months after the event has actually finished. We have one more thing which is called the idiot check. Do you know what that is, Mr. Costa?
No idea.
The idiot check is when you go back through everything just to make sure you didn't forget anything.
But how do we know it's back to normal?
You know, one of the best ways of doing this is just by taking a picture in the beginning so that you can help yourself in making sure it's back to how it was. Let's look now at the administrative side of the shutdown. Here are the topics.
For all the contractors that we use, we must first release the contract, thank you, and pay them.
For the entertainment part, we must send them off appropriately by maybe taking them to the airport, pay them, give them the thank you letters, and see if there are any awards or provide any recommendations.
For the HR, they need to write a big thank you to all volunteers and staff, make final payments, conduct a debriefing to gain feedback for the next event, and organize a nice celebration party.
You will have to have an event office open even after the event. Of course, there are things that are still going on, like finance, HR stuff, everything, and it needs to have a physical office that you're going to do all this administrative work inside.
When considering finance, we're mainly talking about ticket reconciliation, paying all the remaining bills, and finalizing and auditing the accounts. This is best done as soon as possible.
The sponsors are important to meet and to inspire them for maybe a next event that they could work with you. When it comes to grants, we have to give reports to the people who have offered us those grants, like the governments or other organizations.
With liability, it's important to keep all records and any descriptions you may have in case people come back trying to get some compensation.
The third part of the shutdown is the evaluation and recording. And here are the topics. So, Mr. Costa, where can we get information and where can we do our debriefings?
For example, you can get information from sponsors, staff, mystery guests, visitors, maybe even coordinators, security, police, council.
And what kind of information are we trying to get?
Quantitative information, for example.
And what is quantitative information?
That is, any general statistics information. For instance, visitors' numbers, participants' data, sales and target market, visitors' profiles, and many others.
Very good. But there is also qualitative information. What is that?
This could be visitors' perceptions, staff and volunteers' feedbacks, social benefits, management notes and commentaries, for example.
What about questionnaires and exit surveys? What kind of information is that?
That is also qualitative.
Of course, that's qualitative because we're looking at how the guests feel, right? It's not about numbers. All this feedback is very important, and the client is the center of a lot of the information. The surveys and suggestions for what you could do at the next time are essential. Maybe it's so important that you will have to terminate and end an event because a client is not willing to come anymore.
When talking about marketing and promotion, we're looking at any reviews of the event, collecting press clippings and video blogs, and even at times conducting a market research on the reaction of the local community.
So to summarize, event closedown is one of those aspects of management that receive not enough attention. The temptation is to get cleared up and finished as soon as possible.
And that means what?
That is, Mr. Costa, a recipe for disaster or even accidents. And then also, it is a good time for you to reflect on things that went well and not so well for the future.
Thank you for listening, and here are our references.
Thank you very much.